crown. From the net-like giants to the Madison Square. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, this man begin it all. Whoa, oh, oh. Bobo and Cramer, yeah, the sound to loud. Taking on the world, and they're never gonna stop. With that New York grit, they're rising to the top. In the line. Yeah, the bestie in the house is where the legends play. Bobo and Cramer, leading the way. Breaking plastics hard, shout it out loud. In the bestie in the house, we're rocking the town. In the bestie in the house, we're rocking the town. In the bestie in the house, we're rocking the town. In the bestie in the house, we're rocking the town.
And that's right, everybody. Welcome back once again to another edition of the Best Seat in the House podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rob Kramer, joined by my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Curlin. And Dan, we got a lot to get into today. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. And before we start today, I got to wish a happy birthday to our good buddy, Matt, the great Matt Iceman. Happy birthday, Matt, if you're watching this.
Happy birthday, Matt. Have a Stella on us. No doubt about it, man. And, actually, speaking of that, too, we do have a special message that's coming in from a big fan of the show right now. So hold on one second.
Foremost, I just want to say, watch Best Seat in the House podcast with Kramer and Bobo.
There we go. There you have it. That's straight from New York Giants head coach John Harbaugh, Dan.
That is neat. That is neat that Harbaugh is giving us a nice little shout out. They're the newest head coach, and that I'm pumped for what the Giants could potentially be this next season. It's just a lot to look forward to. So much upside on this team, so I'm pumped for that, and I'm also pumped for this news about some news that the Mets just made. And you know who else is pumped from all this news the Mets have made? My mom!
Well, your mom should definitely be pumped, Dan, because the Mets, we've been waiting for this all year. It's kind of felt like that meme of the stick figure for most of this offseason poking the Mets symbol and saying, do something. One of those memes that we see all the time. And, it really was brutal in December when, everybody else was making these big signings and making trades. And the only thing that us Met fans could sit here and do is turn around and see our franchise leader in home runs walking out the door, never to come back, at least not in the next 5 years. And, going over to Baltimore and the Mets not even offering him a contract. Then you turn around and the Mets end up losing their best closer. You could argue the best closer in franchise history. Sure, the Mets have had others that people have loved. Obviously, Tug McGraw. Obviously, Jesse Orosco. But Edwin Diaz was on a different level, especially in 2022 and 2024. And 2025, you got to give him as well, too. The guy is, arguably one of the best closers, if not the best, in Met history. Mets lost him over a matter of $3 million. Unforgivable, in my opinion. Now, me and you were on the record a week ago on this show saying it was an F- offseason. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot has happened in the last week. First off, let's start where we kicked off and ended last week's show. This is how much has changed in a week. We were having a week ago at this time a Kyle Tucker watch party. We were expecting, and well, maybe not expecting, but keeping our fingers crossed that Kyle Tucker would choose the Mets offer, which was $50 million. They ended up bumping it up to $55 million a year for Kyle Tucker to come to New York from Chicago, and that did not happen. The Toronto Blue Jays were in the mix, the Mets were in the mix, and the Los Angeles Dodgers were in the mix. And coming out on top was the Los Angeles Dodgers, who won the services of Kyle Tucker for a whopping $60 million a year. Insane money. So the Mets end up losing out on that. us Met fans are even more angry and devastated and resentful towards our organization because at that point, Dan, it's June 15th, June 16th, and the New York Mets still have not done anything outside of a couple of free agent, relief pitchers, like bringing in Devin Williams that excites nobody, bringing in Luke Weaver that excites nobody, partially because both of those guys helped kill the Yankees' chances of winning a division championship last year. And I'm sure the Toronto Blue Jays were happy about that. But Dan, when it comes down to it, we were very upset. An F- a week ago tonight is what we gave the team. Well, as I said, a lot has changed since then. The Mets have signed Bo Bichette, the shortstop for the Toronto Blue Jays, who hit .391 in the World Series this year, to a 3-year, $126 million contract. The guy, it's really phenomenal. Dan, he's 27 years old. He's in the prime of his career. He 311 last year. This is a guy that puts the bat on the ball. And when you look at where this team is right now, Bo Bichette, and we'll get into everything else they did in a minute, but starting off with Bo Bichette, this was a great deal, Dan. I mean, they're paying him a lot of money, and he can opt out after this year, so it's a little scary because, let's be honest, he probably is opting out. But that's why this year is so big. We're going to talk about the couple of deals the Mets made, 2 big trades in a minute. But those deals wouldn't matter as much, and the Mets might not have even made the trade for Freddie Peralta if they did not sign Bo Bichette first, because Bo Bichette takes this Mets lineup from, basically Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto and the rest, to a legitimate, pretty good National League lineup. And Dan, I'm excited about seeing Bo Bichette for the Mets next year. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. I'm excited about the pitch. I'm excited about the we finally signed a real pitcher, hoping it's not just a rental, of course, because I get nervous about that.
We'll get into the pitcher in a minute, Dan. But what do you think about Bo Bichette?
I think it's a pretty good. I would think he's a pretty good signing. I just wish for once David Stearns would stop being over obsessed with these 1-year deals. But
yeah,
because I feel like there's a build up to this team getting good. That could be this year, could be next year. But I just feel like he needs to finally be willingness to take more chances. But I'm excited for that. I feel like we're at least going to be a 90-win team this year.
Yeah, I feel like that too. I feel like this has definitely pushed our window up right now for wins. And I got to be honest, before the Bo Bichette move and the Freddie Peralta move we're going to talk about in a minute and all the other stuff, I really felt like this was a team that's win total was probably somewhere between 79 and 83 wins, which is not good, especially when you're paying as much money as the Mets are and as much money as the fans have to go in the ballpark to see them. So, I really think that, this really helped the Mets out and took their team to the next level. And, it just makes a lot of sense. Bo Bichette. And look, I understand these 1-year deals, these rentals, these guys that can opt out after 1 year. It's not fun. It's not fun. And we're going to talk about that too. And the toll that takes on the fan base. But, I think I think a lot of this has to do with the strike next year too. Because or a lockout, whatever you want to call it. There is going to be a work stoppage a year from now. So right now, a year from now, in January 2027, when we're doing a show, it's probably going to be in the middle of a Major League Baseball work stoppage, unfortunately. That's just the world we're living in right now. And the fact that Rob Manfred keeps letting the Los Angeles Dodgers get away with murder is part of the reason for that. Did you know that the Dodgers this year, between Shohei Ohtani, who's getting paid $70 million this year, and Kyle Tucker, who's getting paid $60 million this year. Do you know how much actual money the Dodgers are on the books for paying them this year, Dan?
How much?
$3 million. Those players' contracts are supposed to be over the value of over $120 million. But because the genius Rob Manfred allows them to get away with murder and defer as much money as humanly possible, they are only paying Shohei Ohtani $2 million out of his $70 million this year. The rest is considered a bonus, and it's the same thing with Kyle Tucker, who's getting paid $1 million this year. So on the books for two guys, they're actually paying in real life money over $120 million. They're on the books for $3.
What the heck? I just have a feeling. I can't see they're going to be a salary cap, but what I can see they're going to do is they're probably going to limit these Bobby Bonilla type contracts, with teams being able to sign these Bobby Bonilla type contracts and calling it. The only thing is, it sickens me that the Dodgers get 2 back-to-back championships, and the Mets, all we get is the Bobby Bonilla Day meme.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. At least these fake ass fan base. The Dodgers have not been a real ass fan base since 1950. Since 1958, when they left Brooklyn. That's the last time they were a real ass fan base. They've been fake ass bandwagoners since 1958, and I'm saying it right now. And it's hypocrisy that they will not be a meme every year when Shohei Ohtani Day happens years from now, because they'll still have those fake ass fans will be wearing those championship shirts whatever years from now. Who knows how many we're going to be able to talk about? We'll be lucky we'll get one we could talk about by that time.
Yeah, and the difference, between the Bobby Bonilla deal that we always have to endure the mockery of, and when they're going to be paying these guys all this money down the road, is that the Dodgers, like you said, they already have 2 World Series championships to hang up on it, not including the 2020 one. So, it's just a shame that they let them get away with this. But Rob Manfred is doing this intentionally. This is what people have to understand. Rob Manfred is letting the Dodgers get away with murder right now because he wants to force everyone in baseball to adapt to this salary cap era. He wants that. This is what the owners are going to be fighting for a year from now. They want a salary cap. They want, they want this team to, they want everybody to capitulate and go to the, what the owners have been wanting to do for years now. The only owners that don't want to do it are the Dodgers and the Mets. Even the Yankees would welcome a salary cap at this point, if you see how they've been handling their business, Dan. So, just very, very bad job by Rob Manfred and everything. But let's get to the real news, Dan, though. The news of the day that broke is that the Mets have traded for and acquired, it's a done deal, Freddie Peralta from the Milwaukee Brewers. They also acquired right-handed pitcher, 26-year-old Tobias Myers in the deal, who that guy is not a throw-in. Don't sleep on Tobias Myers. The guy's a very good pitcher. The Mets did have to give up a lot to get them, though. And I understand some Met fans are hurt by this. They gave up Jet Williams, and they gave up Brandon Sproat. I was listening to the Rico Bronya podcast hosted by Evan Roberts from WFAN, who usually I'm pretty in sync with Evan Roberts, the way we view the game most of the time, the way we view the Mets and everything most of the time. But you got to be kidding me. As much as I love Evan, you would have thought that he was on there talking about, a funeral, the way that he was covering this last night when they did their reaction episode to the trade. But Dan, I understand we all like Jet Williams, and I understand we all like Brandon Sproat too. And I understand it's only for a year, which is why it hurts even more. But Freddie Peralta, the fact is, I think right now, we all have to stop looking ahead 3, 4 years down the road. The way the Mets are running the thing right now, and I guess the fact that they got rid of a lot of our fan favorites kind of helps this out a little bit because you become less attached to guys. The way the Mets are running their business right now, it's almost like a year-to-year operation. And even let's go back to 2022. You remember the upheaval and how much change there was on the 2022 Mets down to the next year in 2023. And then, even a little bit more in 2024. 2025 wasn't that much, but you brought in Soto. And now you get the big change from 2025 into 2026. And I think that's how the Mets are running it now, Dan. It's like a year-to-year business in a lot of ways. And look, I think we just have to be happy at this point that the Mets were willing to make this trade because, like I said, I just want to enjoy having an ace for a year. And look, the reports are coming out that Freddie Peralta is interested in signing an extension with the Mets. So that's all going to depend on David Stern's appetite for that, if he actually wants to commit long-term to Freddie Peralta, who's going to be 30 in June, by the way. But, I mean, Dan, overall, I understand the people that are upset about the prospects. I get it. But can we all just sit here and appreciate the fact that the worst thing about the New York Mets last year overall, by far, was not having reliable starting pitching. And right now, the Mets got one of the most reliable starting pitchers in baseball. This guy has started 30-plus games 3 years in a row. He struck out 200 batters or more 3 years in a row, and he led the National League in wins last year and had a 2.70 ERA. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that from one of your top guys in your rotation. So I get the frustration with the prospect hugging, but let's just sit back for a second and enjoy the fact that the Mets right now probably have one of the 4 or 5 best starting pitchers in the National League at the top of their rotation.
Yeah, you got to give credit to that. We got Freddie Peralta, a pitcher that I'm hoping he can throw more innings than we've ever seen starting pitcher on this team throw before. So that I'm looking forward to. I'm also hopeful that of course, also that we'll re-sign him. I'm also kind of hoping that one way that I think this trade will be worth it, if one of two things. One, he pitches well, gets us to the promised land. We either re-sign him, or if we don't re-sign him, we do go after the schoolball.
Yep. See, that's exactly what I'm thinking too. The way I'm looking at this right now is this is a long play. Right now, the Mets traded Jet Williams and Brandon Sproat for basically a roster spot is the way I'm looking at it right now. And this year in 2026, that roster spot is going to belong to Freddie Peralta. In 2027, that roster spot could either be Freddie Peralta again, if the Mets extend him, or just like you said, Tariq Skubal. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I feel like if people looked at it that way, that the Mets are, no matter what, and this is me taking a leap of faith because God forbid David Stern hands out a 5+ year contract. We haven't even seen it yet. But I'm sitting here right now saying, I think the Mets are somehow going to find a way to plug in either Freddie Peralta in this spot next year or Tariq Skubal in that spot next year. And if I'm telling you that right now, Dan, does that make you feel any better about this trade?
Yeah, that makes me feel better about this trade. If that happens and David Stern actually for once is willing to take the big risk and not take the low risk thing, because every one of these GMs that stuff like won World Series, they've taken the big risks. So I'm waiting for that to happen. Also, keeping an eye out on how some pitchers are going to pan out, because I feel like even though maybe that at the start of the season, but over the course of the season, Jonah Tong is going to be someone to keep an eye out for. Also, Nolan McLean is going to keep an eye out for how well he does year 2. Potentially after making his debut in August, could potentially be the NL Rookie of the Year. And there's also another one you got to look out. I forget his name, Scott. I keep forgetting his first name.
Christian Scott.
Christian Scott. It's been so long since he's been in Mets, the Tommy John surgery and something, but
Mm-hmm.
he's going to be one that you got to keep an eye out for, especially in spring training. His process of getting back to the level that he was, because the brief blip we saw him, it looked like we were gonna there was gonna be greatness right there, and we're gonna have to keep a good eye on him, because he could turn out to be a something flying under the radar, that a dark horse in this rotation that makes us that gets us, maybe sneaks us in maybe a couple of extra wins.
It's true. It's true. No doubt about it, man. So, yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. The one thing I did want to bring up to you, though, is that you mentioned that Freddie Peralta in this deal with the Mets now is going to be throwing a lot of innings. I don't want to burst your bubble at all, Dan, but I did want to tell you this a little bit, all right? So, Freddie Peralta, the last 2 years, he threw 173 innings in 24. He threw 176 innings in 25. Pretty good. Not great. Not, 200 innings, but still pretty good. So you got to give him that. But I do want to give you this stat. And for the Freddie Peralta doubters, this is something that would be a feather in your cap. How many times, Dan, do you think last year Freddie Peralta completed 7 innings in a
Probably
game?
0.
Well, you'd be wrong about that. He actually did complete 7 innings in a game one time on April 2nd of last year against the Kansas City Royals. He threw 8 innings of 2-hit, 1-run ball. That's the only time all year he completed 7+ innings. He had 12 other starts where he completed 6 innings or more. And then one where he completed 6 2/3, but he only completed 7 innings once last year. Isn't that crazy? I mean, I'm still happy about the trade, and I still think Freddie Peralta is going to be good for the Mets. But isn't that crazy that one of the best pitchers in the National League only completed 7 innings once?
That is crazy. He's got to find a way to throw more innings. And does this guy usually reach the 100 pitch mark a lot? Because that's one of the things I've been getting under Carlos Mendoza's skin, is not letting these guys reach 100 pitches.
Yeah, well, it depends. It depends on how these new age managers do it, Dan. It's so weird. If a guy's got 88 pitches through 7 innings, they'll take him out. But if he's got 105 pitches through 4 2/3 innings, they'll let him get the last out just to push him to 5. The way that these managers manage things today make no sense at all to me.
That's a question. I really, for once, want to see the Mets have a pitcher that's doesn't put us in a situation where we got to burn out our bullpen. That's another thing I'm concerned about, is our bullpen getting burned out even more now than last year, because we don't have that safety net and Edwin Diaz in the 9th anymore.
It's true. It's very true.
We have a guy that's going to be a huge question mark. That's going to be a human heart attack.
That's right. That's right. And all right, then last thing on the Mets before we move on. It was great too. The one thing that we've been saying is that the Mets need a real center fielder. The Mets need another outfielder. They still need a left fielder too, to be honest. But David Stearns did say earlier today they're planning on getting Brett Beatty reps out there this year. So I guess Brett Beatty is going to be learning yet another new position. But Dan, this trade, I got to say, this trade didn't blow me away. I know a lot of Met fans have had a love affair with Luis Robert Jr. for the last year or two. I personally, I don't like Luis Robert Jr. that much, but I'll tell you this. Over the summer, when it was leading up to the trade deadline, and there were rumors that the Mets were going to trade Mark Vientos for Luis Robert Jr., I would have had a mental breakdown if the Mets pulled off that trade. Unless Luis Robert Jr. went on a Yoenis Cespedes run and carried the Mets to the playoffs, which would never have happened at the end of last year. I would have hated that trade and had a mental breakdown if they traded Mark Vientos for Luis Robert Jr. However, they came back, they didn't make that trade, and they end up trading, as you can see, Luis Angel Acuna and a prospect who was only in single A pitcher for the center fielder for the Chicago White Sox, Luis Robert Jr. The guy had a great year in 2023. No doubt about it. Let me bring up his numbers right here, Dan. 2023. Luis Robert Jr. was one of the elite players in baseball. I know he really broke on the scene in that 2020 year. But if you want to look, 2023, he played in 145 games, hit 38 home runs. He stole 20 bases, drove in 80 runs, and hit 264. That's a pretty damn good year, no doubt about it. But the fact is that every other year around that, he's either been hurt or just has not played well. In 2021, he only played in 68 games. In 2022, he only played in 98 games. The last 2 years, 24 and 25, he's only played in 100 and 110, which, if you're counting, means he's missed more than 50 games both years. And, the numbers weren't that great. Let's be honest. 224 in 24, 223 in 25, 14 home runs both years, 1 year 35 RBIs, 1 year 53 RBIs. So nothing this guy does is going to blow you away based off his statistics. But he's only going to be 28 years old. He's an elite defender. And the fact that as much as we might sit here and we all might like Luis Angel Acuna, he was a good prospect. He came up and had a big impact at the end of 2024 for those couple of weeks that Francisco Lindor was hurt. But I got to say, the value exchange here, I think this is a good move. It's a gamble to see if Luis Robert Jr. can kind of regain any of his form from a couple of years ago. But hey, the guy's a great defender. He's got a decent bat. Maybe if you catch him on the rebound and a change of scenery could probably help him out a little bit. Dan, what was your reaction when you heard the Mets had traded for Luis Robert Jr.?
This one, I'm kind of like a meh, because it's just another one of these David Stern guy that used to be good or hasn't been good. So it's like, for once, take a risk on a guy in a prime. I'm hoping this doesn't turn out to be another Cedric Mullins disaster, because David Stearns has a knack for these disasters, these signings that turned out to be complete disasters. So I'm hoping this isn't one of those. My fingers crossed.
At the very least, I would say this trade is probably more like getting Tyrone Taylor, but with a better bat. Tyrone Taylor's bat really isn't that good. But Luis Robert Jr.'s bat is better, and his glove is really, really good too. So I think that, like you said, this trade isn't going to blow you away. It isn't going to be like, oh, the Mets acquired, Ken Griffey Jr. in 1997. Nobody's trying to make that case right now. But the fact is, Luis Robert Jr., like you said, he had the big years a couple of years ago. But the fact is, he's only 28 years old. If Luis Robert Jr. was 32 and hadn't had a good year since his mid-20s, I'd be saying, yeah, this is a garbage trade. David Stearns is an asshole, and I hate this move. But based off the fact that he could have a rebound, he's a really good defender at the very least, I'm willing to sit here and say, you know what? You didn't give up a lot for him, because let's be honest, where is Luis Angel Acuna going to play now? They don't have a position for him, which is the same reason why they traded Jet Williams, because they didn't have a position for them anymore. You got Bo Bichette at third base, you got Marcus Semien at second base, and you got Francisco Lindor at shortstop. And I think the way the Mets were looking at it is, okay, we might be able to move Jet Williams or Acuna to center field and see how they play out. But I think we want a real center fielder that can play elite level defense. So I think that's kind of the way the Mets thought about it, Dan. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way they thought of that, and hopefully this one turns out well and gets us there to the promised land. Like I said, I'm keeping my fingers crossed on this one. I'll be taking a look. I might be willing to go to spring training game if I make the trip to if I make the trip to Florida at any point during that time period. Still not sure yet because it depends, because I know my mom wants to visit the Florida relative, so it's like I might make, so if I make the trip there, I might try to find a way to get one of my relatives to drive me to St. Lucie or something, because it might be worth it this time. Might turn out to be the opposite of what I thought. Might be worth getting a look at this.
Hey, the fact that I got to give it to David Stearns, in a week he has completely. I still don't forgive him for letting Pete Alonso go, and I still don't forgive him for lowballing Edwin Diaz and not locking that up when he can too. So he's not forgiven for either one of those things. But Dan, we do have to revise our off-season grade. So 1 week ago, we both said F-. It's definitely not an F- anymore. I'm going to say right now we're looking at a C+ to a B-. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I'm giving him a C+. A C+.
Okay.
I have to say. Another thing though, I have to question though. I maybe understand this if he's been pitching for a while and has established himself, maybe wanting to do this, but why did Nolan McLean? Why did he choose to play the WBC when it? I feel like that's affecting him getting ready for spring training, getting ready for a full season of MLB.
Nolan McLean.
Because he's going to be pitching relief in the WBC, and I feel like he needs to build himself up innings wise and stuff to prepare to make as many starts as possible. And I feel
Nolan McLean,
he's not going to do that in a WBC.
Yeah, Nolan McLean has agreed to participate in the World Baseball Classic. He is just like Dan said, he is scheduled to be there and coming out of the bullpen and relief and everything. It's good for the American team and the WBC, but just like you said, I agree that I wouldn't be too happy about it if I was the Mets. I don't know why the Mets would have approved it. I know you don't kind of want to stand in the kid's way of being in there, but if I was the Mets, because you can't blame the kid. You can't blame Nolan McLean, because A, he wants to represent his country, and B, it's the competitive nature that you like about him anyway. So he wants to compete, and I don't blame him for that. What I do blame is the Mets not stepping in and protecting Nolan McLean from himself and saying, hey, listen, Nolan, we appreciate the fact that you want to participate in the WBC. A couple of years down the road, feel free when you're an established major leaguer. But this camp, we want you in here focusing on certain things. And I agree. I really don't like the fact that he's not.
Yeah, exactly. He did not even Jacob deGrom pulled this level of stupidity like this.
Yeah, that's true. All right, last thing, Dan. Are the Mets done? Do you think that this is where we stand right now? Are the Mets done for the offseason, or are we still going to see a couple of moves here and there?
I feel like the Mets maybe need to shore up in the reliever department. Probably here, but maybe this is probably as far as they could do now, because I feel like everything's already off the board. I mean, they could have easily went after someone like Bellinger, but they went with this risky move that I'm still kind of questioning, that with the Luis Robert Jr. that I feel like I need to see in a full season. Do we got this guy for 1 year? We got him for multiple years.
Who's that?
Luis Robert Jr.
Oh, he right now Luis Robert Jr. is on a he's playing on on the team option this year for $20 million, which the White Sox picked up back in November, and he has one more team option after this year, also for $20 million. So the Mets do have the option to keep him for this year and next year. So it's at least 2 years with him, unless if he has a really bad year this year, the Mets could decline that option and then he'd be gone next year.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like maybe that this year I'm okay. I'm okay with this one if he's probably going to be back next year also because I feel like I feel like there needs to be a situation where the Mets need to have two chances at this getting this championship done. And
That's true.
um um so I feel like for the most part this is where we are now. I feel like anything else additional to this team could happen at the trade deadline. That's
I
what I feel.
agree.
That's what I feel. And this time, I feel like David Stern needs to go for once, go all in and not half-ass it, and go with these things like these maybe mediocre like Mullins and needs to really go out. Might need to go after big fish. Really make a statement. Take a risk. It's one of those things
Yeah.
you have to do. I feel like all these great championship teams did that. They all took that big risk. I mean, a perfect example when I look at it, the 2004 Red Sox when they took that chance on Schilling like that, especially knowing that there'd be an extra he'd be pitching an extra year. You know, they had that contract extension they had to sign him to, and then the World Series clause if they won the World Series, he had another year in the contract. It got them not one but two championships, and this was a team that had a championship drought. The Mets need to look at it this way. It's a championship drought. Let's break that drought already. This year, it's the 40th anniversary of the 1986 Mets. Let's get ourselves a championship already.
You're damn right about that, Dan. You're damn right about that.
Yeah,
So that's going to do it.
Speaking of Mets, I forgot to say to open the show, congratulations on Carlos Beltran on getting into the
Yes.
Baseball Hall of Fame.
That's right.
I have to say a couple things. One, if he goes into the Hall as a Met, I think he's probably going to go into the Hall of Fame without a cap on because there's too many arguments, too many teams he's at.
He's going in as a Met. They already said it.
If he's going in as a Met, then I feel like that's almost for sure that the Mets are going to retire number 15. This is also going to make me feel old because 2006 was feels like yesterday, and it's like over 20 years ago. It's weird. And I got to say also, for all you people that I keep bashing Carlos Beltran because at one moment, yes, we're all upset. I'm upset like everyone else at that one at bat. But that one at bat should not define his entire time as a Met. This guy put up great numbers for us. He gave it all he had for this team his entire time with the Mets. A lot more than you could ask for. Even though we didn't win a championship, this guy I feel like he had a trickle down effect on the rest of the team, that 06 team and some other great Met players. So I feel like he deserves a round of applause when his number's retired and gets into the Mets Hall of Fame later this year.
And his numbers should be retired by the Mets too. So that's Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones both got elected to the Hall of Fame. Carlos Beltran, in my opinion, is a slam dunk in the Hall of Fame. He's a great defensive center fielder. He's probably the second best switch hitter of all time. The only switch hitter that you can definitively say is better is Mickey Mantle. Carlos Beltran had just about 430 home runs. He's one of the greatest, switch hitters of all time. So I think that the fact that he won, this is the guy that won Rookie of the Year. He won a World Series championship. He got MVP votes on more than one occasion, and he's one of the greatest postseason players of all time. You talk about the Game 7 strikeout, Dan, but the Mets wouldn't have even been in that position in 2006 to be in Game 7 if it wasn't for Carlos Beltran, and he had a great postseason leading up to that. So it did suck the way it ended, but Carlos Beltran definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Real quick before we move on, though, Dan, Andrew Jones, I like Andrew Jones. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, though. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people disagree with me. He's probably the best defensive center fielder I've ever seen, and you got to give him credit. He did have 434 home runs. Note that's to his credit. But this is a guy that didn't even have 2,000 hits. Carlos Beltran had almost 2,800 hits. This guy, Andrew Jones, didn't even have 2,000. And he hit a lot of home runs, no doubt about it, but so did Dave Kingman. Dave Kingman had more home runs than Andrew Jones. So is Dave Kingman going to the Hall of Fame next? I really like Andrew Jones and I respect him. I don't want to come off like I don't, but I mean, it's definitely not as bad as Harold Baines when he got in. But I mean, come on, Andrew Jones, in my opinion, is not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're gonna get Andrew Jones in the Hall of Fame, for once, the Veterans Committee put Keith Hernandez in the Hall of Fame for once.
Yeah, Keith Hernandez and Don Mattingly should both be in my opinion, before Andrew Jones at least. But anyway, all right. Before we wrap up with the baseball, Dan, because somehow we ended up spending 45 minutes talking baseball today. But hey, that's the name of the game.
Yep, that's how it is in New York. Remember, I said that time when the Mets got Johan Santana, that was a big lead. There was a big lead. It was a big lead up to Super Bowl 42. The Giants in Super Bowl 42, and the Mets, the 2 days before that game, what was on the back end page of the Daily News? The Mets acquiring Johan Santana in that trade. Remember that?
That's right. That's absolutely right, my friend. And what was also on the back page of the paper the other day here was the Yankees making big splash. You know, you mentioned Cody Bellinger before. Got to give the Yankees credit. They signed Cody Bellinger, and they even managed to upstage the Mets for a minute because they made the announcement during the introductory press conference of Bo Bichette at Citi Field. In the middle of that, news broke that the Yankees had signed Cody Bellinger. We all kind of expected that. After the Mets had traded for Luis Robert Jr., it kind of just seemed like he was destined to go back to the Yankees. Makes total sense for the Yankees to make this move. 5 years, $162.5 million is a lot of money for Cody Bellinger. No doubt about that. And he even still has opt-outs in this deal too. He can't opt out after this year, but he can opt out after 27, or he can also agree to opt out again after 2028. So Cody Bellinger does have an out clause if he does want to get out of here before the 5 years. But look, this is a guy that improves the Yankees defense wherever they put him. He's a lefty that helps balance that lineup out behind or in front of Aaron Judge, however they want to use him. And I think it's a great move for the Yankees to bring him back.
Yeah, it's a great move for the Yankees to bring him back. Even though in reality they could only have him potentially 1 year because he could opt out after. Yeah, he could opt out after 2027, but because that lockout also looms, and we all know that if there's a whole season lost, it's a year. It still counts toward the players' contracts.
It's true, very true. So yeah, and Cody Bellinger definitely fits right there in the Yankees' plans. He's he seems like a pretty perfect player, that prototype player for Yankee Stadium, lefty with power. So Bellinger going back there makes total sense. One more thing on the Yankees before we wrap up talking about them is oh, damn, I just deleted it. But the Yankees did trade 4 prospects to the Miami Marlins for left-handed pitcher Ryan Weathers. He is the son of former Met and former Yankee David Weathers, who was on the 1996 Yankees, by the way. So it's really cool. The Yankees bringing in another former Yankee son to come in and join the team. Ryan Weathers is a hard-throwing lefty, had been with Miami. He'd been starting a lot of games. The Yankees at the beginning of the year are going to have a couple of their starting pitchers coming off injuries, mainly Garrett Cole and Rodon. So I think the way the Yankees are looking at this trade right now with Ryan Weathers is they start him with the year in the bullpen, and then maybe he becomes the swing guy. He starts the year in the rotation. Maybe he becomes a swing guy at some point, goes to the bullpen, and just kind of fills whatever role the Yankees need him to. And he's a 26, 27-year-old kid, lefty that throws hard. I don't think you can really complain about this move if you're a Yankee fan, Dan.
Yeah, exactly. They did. They pulled off a good one there. Managed to get it. Managed to pull off probably one of the better ones out of the farm system for all 30 teams.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So good job by the Yanks there. And all right, Dan, let's keep it rolling along here right now. We got a couple of things to get into before we get out of here, and that's the New York Knicks, my friend. New York Knicks had been in a real bad stretch. Me and you talked about it the other day on our Patreon show, which, by the way, if you want to subscribe, our Patreon is patreon.com/Best Seat in the House podcast. It's only podcast. I can't talk tonight. It's only $5 a month, so we appreciate all the support that we get from you guys. And but we were talking about it on the other night, Dan, that it feels like the Knicks really hurt themselves in the short term, I think, by going all out and winning that NBA Cup a month ago, because the Knicks suffered a lot of injuries after that. They treated it like a real playoff tournament. And the team was really banged up after that. They've been playing basically every other day since then. So it really takes a toll on the team. But they finally got a couple of days off. They came back to Madison Square Garden last night, playing a awful Nets team. And the Knicks did not let the Nets off the hook last night, Dan. It was an absolute blowout, the likes we've never seen before in Knicks history. The Knicks set a franchise record by blowing the Nets out 120-66, a 54-point win. And it always feels good coming against Brooklyn, doesn't it, Dan?
Yeah, that's just such a feel good win. A win that we had that we had to win. A win that it would have been. I would have lost my mind if we didn't win that game, but we won that game. The Knicks did what they had to do, and that's not treat any opponent lightly. You really have to go on that. It's like in every sport, you got to understand that every sport that your opponent, they're in the end, they're the professional level for a reason. You can't take them lightly. It's an NBA opponent. These guys are in the NBA for a reason. So you really can't. You got to take them. You got to take every opponent you face seriously, and they did. They did just that, and they won this game. Hopefully it's maybe a momentum swinger. They got to win. They got that monkey off their bat, that losing streak off their bat. Now go out there and go on a tear. Go on a big winning streak. Keep it up. And I expect hopefully the guys that are banged up are gonna come better. Gonna start coming back and be healthy for the stretch. Another thing I have to say, I feel like you could also blame the fact that the NBA Cup, everything except the final, counted toward the regular season record. So they knew that these were regular season wins essentially. Even though with the NBA Cup thing, everything except the final, maybe they could have half-assed it in the final, but aside from that, it's what it is, and now they gotta keep pushing forward.
Yeah, it's true, and that's what happens. You went all out to win the NBA Cup. Your team got banged up. Obviously, we had the Josh Hart injury to deal with. Landry Shamet was down for a long time. OG Anunoby got banged up. Karl Anthony Towns had to sit a couple of games. Jalen Brunson ended up getting banged up. It's like the entire roster ended up suffering some kind of malady coming out of this tournament or soon thereafter. So it's good to see the Knicks get back on track. And just like you said, Dan, too, the one thing that has killed the Knicks during this stretch is their inability to play defense, which is something that we loved during the Thibodeau era. And it scared me when they hired Mike Brown that the defense was going to slip. Well, for the last month, we saw it slip. The Knicks had lost 9 of the previous 11 games and averaged allowing about 120 points a game. You're not going to win if you're allowing that much points. It's insane. And the Knicks defense showed up big time and held the Nets to an NBA season low, 66 points. And that's the type of performance we need from these guys. Obviously, you're not going to go out there and hold most of these NBA teams to 66 points. I mean, shit, Dan, we saw some of these games where the Knicks were allowing 66 points with 5 minutes left in the second quarter. You know what I mean? There have been some pathetic defensive efforts, but it was great to see the Knicks get back to the basics last night. Oh, sorry, Dan, your mic was out. Sorry.
The Knicks need to keep playing that level of defense the rest of the way, and I feel like they could be fine. And if they keep that up, we could see I'm depending on the Knicks to get us to the promised land because it's been such a rough stretch the last 4 years. Seeing it all, any of my teams do anything, and plus we've seen that. I really gotta look this. I gotta look this one up. What? Because I don't recall ever before the 2 mayors in a row that have never seen a championship during their administration. Because I feel like when I look at history, I feel like going all the way back, every mayor of New York has had at least one championship in the Big Four. It's a weird stat I noticed.
It's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, our last 2 mayors have not had a championship, and yeah, it's a good point. I didn't even think about it in that respect. So, yeah, it's been a big drought in New York, going all the way back to your Giants winning the last New York championship.
Yeah,
of the major teams.
yeah, exactly. And that was all the way back to when Bloomberg was mayor. That's how far back you have to go to when a New York team won a championship. When yours truly witnessed it in person.
It's true. It's true. And all right, then let's hope that the Knicks are one of the next teams to, or I guess they would be the next team to win a championship of the teams that we root for together, because it would be in June. The Rangers aren't going to be there, that's for sure. But the Knicks, yeah, let's hope that they can win that championship. Now, this is a report that came out. So we have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from Karl-Anthony Towns since he's been here. Last year, his first season in New York, I didn't really understand all the bad press that Karl-Anthony Towns gets. He, and you know, is especially last year, he was a phenomenal player for the Knicks. And he's been a very good player this year too. But we're starting to see a lot more of the warts from him, a lot more of the reasons why he fell out of favor in Minnesota. His undisciplined play. He gets fouled constantly. Now, I also do think that Karl-Anthony Towns is the most unfairly officiated player in the NBA, because I feel like these officials give him nothing. He gets pounded going to the net and no call. Then he sneezes on a guy that's driving to the basket and they call a foul. So I also feel like there's a lot that goes into that, but he doesn't do himself any favors. Karl-Anthony Towns does a great job of digging his holes that he has to find a way to get himself out of. However, there have been a lot of people talking about maybe the Knicks are going to move Karl-Anthony Towns, potentially in a deal for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's a possibility of something that could happen along those lines. But a report that just coming out the other day, I know Ian Begley commented on it. Adrian Wojnarowski was saying that it looks like Karl-Anthony Towns is not being shopped, or the Knicks aren't even considering moving him at this deadline. It looks like the Knicks are pretty content going with this group forward and maybe adding a piece or two at the deadline of the smaller variety. But Dan, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think the Knicks are going to have to move on from Karl-Anthony Towns to try to win that championship? Or do you think that he's going to be one of the guys that are going to be a reason that they finally win it?
The reason they're going to finally win it. And I say maybe not a good idea to move him unless you see like a Giannis being available. That's the only way I
Giannis is definitely available. He does want to get traded, and one of the places he wants to go is the Knicks. It's just a matter of, can the Knicks make that happen in the regular season? And also, too, to make it work cap-wise and everything like that, you're probably going to have to give up Karl-Anthony Towns in that trade, too.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like maybe the Knicks, maybe that's the only way I feel like the Knicks should do it. If they're gonna trade him for that, I'd be okay with that. Otherwise, wouldn't make sense to move him.
Yeah, I'm with you. And all right, for the last thing, then it's the Knicks are back on the court on Saturday, down in Philadelphia, taking on the Sixers for an oddly timed 3 p.m. Saturday game. I don't mind it though. It's going to be interesting. Knicks looking to keep that momentum going from the big win against the Nets. Let's not forget the Sixers did smack the Knicks at the end of December. So we definitely want to return that favor after the Sixers pissed us off just after Christmas time. So we definitely owe them one, no doubt about it, Dan. And, hey, this is what the Knicks have to do. You're going to have to just get right back on track. And every team goes through a down stretch in the season, especially if you're a championship caliber team. You're going to go through a bad couple of weeks at some point. The thing that separates the losers from the winners is how you respond to it. And let's hope that Mike Brown has this team prepared to respond for a long, dominant run now in response to that struggling.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the Knicks are going to just go out there and win this game. And I'll be watching, and as always, and hope. And I expect the Knicks now to go on a tear from this point on.
That's right. I'm with you on that. I'm with you. And all right, then, last thing before we get out of here today, a couple of football notes, and then we'll do our picks. We were originally going to talk about the Rangers and how they sent the letter out again. They're tearing the team down again. But you know what? We'll get into that next week. The Rangers are not even worth our time at this point. They're a absolute disgrace. But then we do want to get into some good news. And some of that good news is that the New York Giants introduced your buddy and your new head coach, John Harbaugh, the other day. He's already having a major effect, and he's letting his opinions be known.
I just want to say, watch Best Seat in the House podcast with Cramer and Bobo.
He wants you to watch Best Seat in the House podcast, and he wants to take over the New York Giants organization, Dan. That's exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like this energy that on this team we haven't had since Tom Coughlin was coach of the Giants. And there's going to be, I just feel like there's just going to be this energy in the team, and there's going to be, he's going to bring in the pieces. He's going to convince the Joe Shane to bring in these pieces that are going to propel the Giants to the promised land. And this is going to be such a lot to look into this season and the off season and during the season, how the Giants potentially could turn a 180. That I'm going to make 2 trips to Giants training camp this off season during the summer. I'll be making 2 trips.
You should, and you should be excited. You really should.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I might have to buy maybe a photo of Cam Scatterboo to try to get him to autograph. Get an autograph photo. I do want his Cam Scatterboo autograph. I would.
You should get the WWE photo of him when he's pushing. I forget which guy he was pushing in the WWE, but you should get that picture. You know he would love to sign that one.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would love to see that. Definitely. I just feel like I would love. I feel like this guy is muscle man from regular show. If he played in the NFL, that's the energy I'm seeing from this guy. He's got that muscle man energy.
He definitely has muscle man energy. I'm with you on that, no doubt about it. As a matter of fact, Dan, your new head coach might have some of that muscle man energy too in him right now, because he's coming in, and I wasn't kidding when I said he's taken over the New York Giants organization. They have a report out from the last 24 hours that John Harbaugh is already beginning to clean out the New York Giants. We're talking about all the good things that you can bring in to an organization, but sometimes you have to get rid of the old. And sometimes that old, it can be really hard to get rid of. Look at what we just did with the Mets. We just went through how much it sucks getting rid of the old when you're really attached to them. The old being Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo and Edwin Diaz and Jeff McNeil. So you get attached to them. Now, this one is a little bit lesser for fans because I'm sure most Giant fans probably don't even know who this guy is. But Kevin Abrams was the New York Giants vice president of football operations for the last 30 years. I mean, this is a guy that dates back to just about, if not before, we're right in that area of the Parcells era. Like, this is how long ago that Kevin Abrams has been in the New York Giants organization in this position. And John Harbaugh, for whatever reason, we don't know why, fired Kevin Abrams last night. And as say what you want, this is a good thing. People might like Kevin Abrams, might have different opinions about him, whatever it is. John Harbaugh needs people in the organization that he can trust, and that he not only can trust, but he can rely on. And the thing is, when you start having people in the organization that are not your hand-picked people, and you're the one calling the shots, you're the one running the show, if things don't start to go right, or things don't go 100% according to plan, that's when you start getting these little leaks to the media. That's when you start getting little stuff like that, that just sows what's the word I'm looking for? It just really puts a bad stain on the organization when you have that kind of trouble from within. And I think John Harbaugh is doing everything he can to remove that. And he wants to have all his hand-picked people in. And I'm telling you this, Dan, if the Giants are basically turning over the organization, this guy, and the Giants are paying him $20 million a year to be the head coach, to be the highest paid head coach in the league, then you better give him this kind of authority. You want him to be surrounded by the people that he feels comfortable with.
Yeah, exactly. And the weird part, I kind of had kind of question mark on it about the NFL teams wanting to do this, but I have a feeling that the HBO people are going to want to approach him about doing Hard Knocks, and we're probably going to see that and have to accept that we're going to see that happening.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that, Dan. And
And by the way, if HBO wants a sample footage of us talking about the Giants and Hard Knocks, we're more than welcome to do that.
The New York Football Giants. All right, take that one, HBO. And real quick before we get into our picks, Dan, because everything is bright and sunny and beautiful in Giant Land on one half of MetLife. The other half of MetLife is a absolute disgrace with the worst coach in football, Aaron Glenn. And the reports are that nobody who you'd want, obviously there are some guys like Wink Martindale, the former Giant defensive coordinator that's trying to get back in the NFL. There's a reason why he's not in the NFL right now, because he's been bad for a couple of years, despite the fact they did a really great job with the Giants back in 22 and actually led the NFL in takeaways in 2023 with the Giants. He had a bad last couple of years with there, had a falling out with Brian Daboll. He goes to Michigan. He stinks now. And apparently nobody wants to be the Jets defensive coordinator. Not anybody that you'd really want anyway. Not any of the top candidates. And the reason for that is because they know, A, the Jets have a bunch of shit on defense anyway. And even if you add some free agents and a rookie, it's probably not going to get that much better immediately. And if the Jets start out bad this year, Aaron Glenn is going to get fired. So if you come in as Aaron Glenn's defensive coordinator, you're going to get fired too for the next regime. So you really want to come to the Jets just for 1 year? I think a lot of these guys don't want to do it, and I don't blame them for not wanting to be the Jets. And this is why Woody Johnson is a moron, because you had to fire Aaron Glenn because of this.
Yeah, he just really set up the Jets for a disaster. This is going to be such a real disaster. I sense you being in. I don't know. I think it'll be a miracle if you survived another season of this disaster. It's potentially you guys again going to be in a position, probably going to get the top. You're gonna end up waiting a year to get your guy in a draft, to finally get your quarterback, and it's still going to be a couple of years of a rebuild. You guys are going to go through years of disaster. It looks like.
Well, that's what Woody Johnson wants. Woody Johnson has no interest in hiring a real head coach, as he hasn't done that in about 20 years. And that's the Jets and the Jet fans are going to have to pay for that, because Woody Johnson is a complete fool. But unfortunately, nobody wants to be the Jets defensive coordinator, and I don't blame them. So that's going to do it for the Jets there. And with that, Dan, we are just about at the end of the show here. let's get into our picks. And you know what that means, Dan? That means it's time for the Eagle. And that's right, everybody. So we got our NFL picks for Championship Sunday. We are coming off a week that we had last week where me and Dan, it's been up and down in the postseason so far. In the regular season, Bobo was 25-22-2. I was 27-20-2. And the playoffs so far, we're both 2-4. Dan, you were 2-1 in week 1 and took an 0-3 in week 2 in the postseason. I was 0-3 in week 1 and went 2-1 in week 2. So it's been very, very odd, our picks so far. But 2-4 so far, we saved face. It's not as bad as it could be. 1-5 would look a lot worse. But then let's get into our championship games now. And we are starting with the AFC Championship game, Dan. And that's going to be the New England Patriots against the Denver Broncos. New England is going to be a 4.5-point road favorite in this one, as the Broncos stunningly lost their starting quarterback, Bo Nix, to a broken ankle, basically, on the final play of the game in overtime. And now it'll be former New England Patriot Jared Stidham starting the AFC Championship game against his former team. It looks like the Patriots are going to win this one easy, but I'll tell you this, Dan. There's no team in this postseason more well equipped to win a playoff game without their starting quarterback than this Denver Broncos team, and that's because of their incredible defense.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like the Broncos are going to win this one. Probably going to be like something like 27-23. I feel like.
So you have the Broncos winning this game?
Yeah, I have the Broncos winning this game. Very late in the game, I feel like. It's gonna be late. It's gonna be late in the game. Matt Iceman will be pounding the Stellas victoriously pounding the Stellas as he's watching this game.
Yes, that's definitely true. I can see that.
You're probably excited that the Super Bowl will be maybe a couple of hours. I forget how long that drive is from LA to around the Bay Area where the Super Bowl's going to be, but he'll be headed up the Bay Area, up the state, further up in the state that he's living in, to potentially go see his team in the Super Bowl, and his kid will have a talk about being an infant when the Broncos win the Super Bowl, because Matt Iceman recently became a father not too long ago, so that kid's gonna have that to be able to mention that. He'll be seeing pictures at a Super Bowl celebration when he was just an infant.
That's right. And so Dan, you've got the Broncos plus 4.5 in this one. I'm going to go head to head with you on this one. I do think the Broncos are very well equipped to win this game, even without Bo Nix as their quarterback. But something about the Patriots, and I hate to say it because nobody wants to see the Patriots in the Super Bowl less than me as a Jets fan. But I'm taking the Patriots minus 4.5 in this one in Denver. So we are head to head on the AFC Championship game. And with that, Dan, let's turn our attention to the NFC Championship game. And it's an NFC West battle out there right now as the Los Angeles Rams take on the Seattle Seahawks, the number one team left in the NFC. And the Seahawks are 2.5-point favorites in this one, Dan. Who do you got?
I just feel like the Rams are going to win this in a 32-27 offensive explosion, I feel like.
So you got the Rams winning this one. Okay, so you got the Rams plus 2.5. I like that. However, I'm going to go, and I've been going against him the first two games, so I hope I don't spoil it for Sam Darnold. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks, they have so impressed me in this playoff run, especially the way they beat the crap out of the San Francisco 49ers, who have one of the best defenses in football, and they dropped 41 points on them last week. It's always tough to play in Seattle, so you take that into consideration. I'm taking the Seahawks minus 2.5. So we are head-to-head on both games in this one, Dan. I got the Patriots minus 4.5. You got the Broncos plus 4.5. And you have the Rams plus 2.5. And I have the Seahawks minus 2.5. So it's going to be a fun championship Sunday. No doubt about that.
Yeah, exactly. And let's hope. I made a bet. I made a bet, and I lost in that bet. And hopefully this time I don't lose in that bet like I did last week. Because here's what happened to me last week. I ended up in this. Well, basically, there was a guy in a suit on a subway. I played this weird game called Dachi, and he ended up recruiting me to go into Squid Games. I ended up surviving, and not pleasant memories to having to go through this, but I survived. I survived the Squid Games, and God forbid, hope I'm not going to that casino in the Meadowlands to place a bet. Actually, for real though, it was just a small bet, but a nice little bit of pocket money payout, but not anything big. I didn't bet anything big, but I just decided to place a little bet, see what happened, just for the heck of it. But I'm not doing this time, not risking it. So you don't have to worry about the Squid Game 2 happening for me.
That's right, and thank God for that. And thank God, Dan, we are just about at the end of the show here. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us here. Again, another great episode this week. Dan, before we get out of here, anything like to plug for yourself?
Yes, I do. I got to plug myself. Bobo103NYC. Instagram, Bobo718DK. Username, one word, Daniel Curlin on YouTube. Remember, subscribe to our Patreon, which is only $5. Where we also get early access to my YouTube videos whenever I upload stuff, and you get access to the bonus shows we do on Sunday, which are bonus shows after football season. Normal, we're doing football, we do the wrap up shows, but you get access to Trackside Minute once NASCAR season starts up. Plus, you help support the show with all with that contribution. And exactly. and maybe in the future you get a best seat in the house tote bag.
Exactly, and we appreciate everybody that has already done that and gone to Best Seat in the House on Patreon. So thank you so much. And even if you don't want to spend any money, we appreciate all the help. If you want to give us a like, if you want to hype our video, they have that new hype thing on YouTube. All that stuff increases our algorithm and helps spread the show a little bit. So we appreciate all the support from all of our fans. So that's going to do it for us on this edition of Best Seat in the House podcast. From my co-host, Daniel Bobo Carlin, and for the new coach of the New York Giants. Oh, damn it.
Foremost, I just want to say, watch Best Seat in the House podcast with Cramer and Bobo.
There we go. I almost got that one out before we got out of here. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with us here on this Thursday night. For my co-host, the great Daniel Bobo Carlin, I'm Rob Kramer. We will see you again next week. Have a great weekend, everybody, and try not to die in the snow apocalypse. Let's go, Knicks.